Mother Funny Time with Andie and Angie.
2 cousins, 8 kids, 1 grandkid, 2 states.
And a whole lot of fun. Woo! Welcome back, Mother Funny Tribe. It's Angie and Andie, and we're here with you today. So excited. It's June. It's summer. It's warm. The kids are home. Angie, what are we talking about?
Today, Mother Funny Tribe, we're talking about pets and children with pets and kids having pets. And I know for moms, you're like, please stop talking about pets because pets might make your life a little more stressful. But as everybody knows, pets can help children in their development in so many ways. And so today we're going to focus on how pets benefit the family and help a child as they're growing and learning. However, before moms start stressing out, one of the main things about having a pet and owning a pet is your children being involved. So the pet is their best friend. That pet is being fed and given water and being walked by your children. So even though it might cause a little stress at first, especially when you're going through like the puppy kitten phase, just remember that could be your child's best friend. So stay with us, Mother Funny Tribe. Don't stress out yet because we're talking about pets and this could be anything from a sweet, cute little kitten to a dog to a fish to, we have an axolotl and a bunny. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter what type of pet your child has. It's the idea that your child connects with a pet and they now have a companion and a best friend. And really, as everybody knows, usually a pet just joins the family and a pet becomes a family member. And what is so perfect with today is because Andie, once again, is recording with George, her dog, who's in the background.
Yes, where is he? Oh,
he's right there. There's George. He's right there.
George is my shadow. He is not my children's shadow. He's my shadow. But everybody loves George. Everybody loves George. And he's here. We should ask him what he thinks. He doesn't have much to say.
I think he likes the topic. He's like, finally, all of these podcasts I've been sitting in on. Oh, see, look, he's excited. George moved.
George moved.
Like,
he's
yes.
14 years old. Or no, he's 11.
You're finally talking about me. That's what George is saying. You're finally talking about me.
I've been waiting.
Finally, a podcast George can relate to. He is attentive. He's excited.
He's a child. He thinks he's a child.
As is our dog Tracker. We have a golden lab. He's the mix. And as I think I've mentioned before, we got Tracker in February 2020. And then COVID hit and we all went into quarantine in March 2020. And Tracker thinks he's the person. He genuinely thinks he is a kid. And so he really thinks he belongs at school. He thinks he belongs at sporting events. He wants to ride in the car. It's so hilarious. And he's really connected actually to my middle one, Brooklyn. And they have become best friends and they are so sweet, which is funny because sometimes they'll be like, oh, a pet obviously is your child's best friend. But really, Brooklyn is also Tracker's best friend. Like those two are so connected and their childhood, like they're both growing up together. So Andie, all the pets. Now, everybody needs to know this about Andie, which is so hilarious and so amazing. When Andie names her pets, she gives them senior citizen names for the most part.
For the most part. Yeah, I had an Agnes who lived to 18 and Clarence was her brother. They're no longer with us. And then we have George. We have PJ, but he was named after my husband. Not because my husband's named PJ. My husband named PJ because when he was a stray. Okay, I have to say this. If my husband was on this podcast, he would have a much better attitude. Different attitude and different things to say than Angie right here. It would be a different podcast.
But that's why I'm here today and Chris is not. I am pro-animal,
It would all be
member.
about the struggles, how he never actually picks out any of the animals. They end up just at his house. And no joke, we just got home. We flew in like 1 a.m. on some night. I don't even know what day it is. Friday night? Thursday? I don't know. We flew in at 1 a.m. and we all went to our beds and Shiloh had dog pee on her bed because George has separation anxiety and peed on her bed. She ended up sleeping on the couch.
Oh, he peed on her bed while you guys were gone?
He
What
likes
was
to.
the cat that did that? You had a cat that did that when you were a kid. Remember every time you'd go to
Oh,
school?
yeah.
What cat was that?
Pouzet. Her name was Pouzet, which is such a funny name, but my mom named her like some French.
Yes,
Pouzet.
of course. It
Yeah,
had a French
she was
name.
crazy. She was a crazy cat, but she was also my cat. So, yeah. So, how about Angie? You talk about the wonderful things. I'll talk about all the crazy things.
Well, it's so funny talking about animals with Andie today because I had a dog named Cooper, and Andie was kind of part of that process without realizing it. Ryan and I had just gotten married. We had just moved to San Diego, and I had finished some of my classes for my master's program. Anyway, and we went to Seattle, and I was telling everybody in the family, I'm going to have a golden retriever. I'm going to have a golden retriever. Like, kind of cousin Dennis has the golden retriever. And I was telling him, like, hey, when I get back, I'm going to rescue your golden retriever. I just kept saying it. I kept saying it. I don't know necessarily if Ryan heard me when I was talking to everyone about how I was going to rescue a golden retriever, but I was determined I was rescuing a golden retriever. We literally got home on the weekend. That Tuesday, Ryan was working in LA, actually. And I went to the animal shelter, and literally there was a golden retriever there. And I said, oh my gosh, this is an amazing dog. And he smelled, and he was malnourished, and he didn't have hair, and his skin was black. He was a
Here's
wreck.
the thing. You wouldn't even know he was. I saw him at the beginning when Angie brought him home, and he did not look like a golden retriever. There was no gold about him. He was like black
I know,
skin. He was just like
weird.
Like mangy black skin. But he was the happiest. He was just so happy to be loved. And then he became beautiful.
Well, as I was at the animal shelter, I said, well, I want this golden retriever, but can I like put him on hold? Because my husband doesn't even know I'm at the animal shelter rescuing a golden retriever. And they were like, no, like golden retriever rescues call in every day because they want to rescue golden retrievers. And literally that dog he was a stray. And he'd been on hold for 3 days. That's how the process works. He wasn't chipped. Obviously, he was malnourished. He'd been walking on his own, living on his own in the trash. And he walked into someone's garage, and that person brought him to the animal shelter. Anyway, so fast forward, I got the golden retriever, but he wasn't fixed, so I couldn't take him home because he had to like get fixed and he had like ear infections, and he had a bunch of issues. And
he was a mess.
He was a hot mess. So literally, I then go to Grandma Vance's house, of course.
Here's the moment.
Go to Grandma Vance's house.
Here's Grandma's moment.
I was like, Grandma, I rescued a dog. What do I do? Ryan doesn't know. And she was like, when Ryan gets home from work, you make him his favorite dinner. And then after that, you sit down on the couch and you tell him. And so that's what I did. I made Ryan his favorite dinner, and then we sat on the couch, and I was like, I have something to tell you. And he was like, what? I was like, prepping him. And he was like, are you pregnant? I'm like, no, I'm not pregnant. I just rescued a dog. And so he was like, oh, okay, that's what you did. You rescued a dog. He wasn't surprised by that at all. And I showed him this picture, and I said, because I chose the dog, you can choose the name. And it's literally of like Cooper, like with one eye open, and like he just looked like it was black and white
hairless
picture.
Skinny, malnourished, diseased.
Like, I rescued a dog that doesn't have fur. So once I got Cooper back, he still had the cone. Andie's family came and visited us for like a couple of weeks. It was a while. And I was like, well, this is good because I want a dog that's good with children. And we literally like saw, which is kind of risky. Thankfully, Andie was okay with it, to see if Cooper was going to be okay with Andie's kids, and he was. Oh, and Ryan named him Cooper, which was funny because you're talking like 17 years ago. Cooper was not a popular name. I don't even think I'd ever heard of the name Cooper. And then I gave him the middle name James after Andie's dad. Remember, it was Cooper James.
Yes.
We always give our animals middle names. So it's Cooper James.
James.
The funny thing is, so Andie was there, like she's saying, it did not look like a golden retriever. It looked like a hot mess. A year went by, and Andie's family came back, and we were talking, and she was like, where's your dog? And I'm like, this is Cooper. And she's like, no, the dog that you rescued.
He did not. He looked like he looked like a normal, beautiful, happy golden retriever. The one she picked up, I'm like, I don't think that's a golden retriever. It's a chupacabra. Like, that's definitely a chupacabra, and it's going to eat your goats.
But it didn't eat goats. It did eat everything else. It had allergies. He was hilarious. One of the best dogs ever. But what a dog or a cat or a pet or an iguana or a snake. I mean, I've never had a snake, and we kind of have a no snake policy in my house. When my kids do ask for animals that I don't want to bring in the house, I just say, sure, when you're in college. So that's kind of my go-to. Instead of saying no to that, I just say like, yeah, wait till you're in college. But obviously, having a pet can be your child's companion. It can be there when they're happy, when they're sad. Sometimes if kids don't necessarily want to open up about their day or what they're going through with a friend, or they don't even want to tell the mom or the dad, sometimes they might just spend time with that dog, kind of sharing what they're going through and communicate with that animal, because it is there for them. Unconditional love helps them feel like they have a best friend. It's amazing. There's also many, many other benefits. But before we go on, Andie, growing up, did you feel that connection with an animal that you were like, this is my best friend?
Yeah, with Pussy.
Really? The cat that peed on the bed every day? That's the one you're choosing?
That's what I had. If you said growing up, like, that's what I had growing up. No,
okay,
we also had.
That's unconditional love. That's what we need to say. That's unconditional
I loved that cat.
love.
I loved that cat. It was a hot mess. I think it had wanted to be put down for years. It was like, please put me down. But we had this cat named Sylvester, and Sylvester actually started at Grandma Vance's house when they lived.
Really?
In Rancho Bernardo, yes. So we had lived with my grandparents for a season, and he showed up. He kept showing up at the door forever, and they kept shooing him away. And then one time he came back, and he had like a big chunk missing out of him, and his ear was all torn. And we don't know how old he was when we got him, but he had been around the block. So my parents take him in. We moved, and we took Sylvester with us, and he was the coolest cat ever. Like, he lived for however long. Like, I lived at home. Like, so I was at home probably 8 years, and everyone in the neighborhood knew him. My brother, this is a little traumatic. My brother accidentally drove over him, broke his jaw. He came back, was fine. He had to get his jaw wired. So animals are expensive.
Had his jaw wired?
Yeah, because my brother drove over his head accidentally.
Oh my gosh.
And my brother drove over his head.
Okay.
He lived.
Everyone needs to understand, this is why we're doing a podcast. Here I am. Pets are amazing. Everyone get a pet.
I know.
And Andie's like, total trauma. Car ran over the head.
Many different stories for you. When you're tired of listening to all the positives, just come and just reach out.
Realist Andie has walked in the door.
So realist Andie, not Angie, obviously. So Sylvester's head gets run over. He takes off. Everybody's looking for him, and all of a sudden, like, the neighborhood comes out, and they're like, "Are you talking about?" Like, everybody knew him. We didn't know the neighbors. Our neighbors knew the cat. They're like, "Oh, we feed him every night." Like, he went around town, met everyone, got food. So he got his jaw fixed. He was okay. And then my parents moved again, and they couldn't take him. So Chris had a friend, and we were like, hey, do you want this cat? Because we all knew it was like he was the coolest cat. And we didn't know how old he was, but he had survived being run over by a car. He had shown up like with a chunk missing out of his butt and his ear. And he was just like the smartest cat and amazing. So his friend took Sylvester. His friend was a single guy who used to cook him like hamburgers and like fresh food, like cooked him food, and then took him for a year RV camping and like sent us a postcard of Sylvester going to the bathroom in the middle of Yosemite. Like,
he took the cat with him on a road trip?
Yes, and let him, and like they hiked together and wandered together and explored together.
On a leash?
And then No, off leash. He was a legend.
Wow.
And I literally have a postcard somewhere of just a picture of Sylvester in the middle of like nowhere going to the bathroom. Like
the traveling buddies.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. They were like traveling buddies. So then Jesse, so I don't know how many years Jesse had him, and then he got hit by a car again and lived.
Wow.
And then was on dialysis. And then I think at some point he was probably like 35 and it was time to go.
Well, his 9 lives were up. I mean, getting hit by a car twice and surviving is pretty amazing.
He was the coolest cat. He was definitely my buddy. He was not my shadow like George or Puze, but he was amazing. And then, yeah, we've always had animals, but it's always comes with a lot of money and trauma. But we love our animals.
See, I was going to talk about how having an animal and having a pet helps a child socially and emotionally. And you're talking about childhood trauma. It's a good balance we have happening here. Because when a child has a pet, they learn how to nurture another living thing, another creature, depending on what it is. And that actually can teach empathy and love and unconditional love and kindness and sacrifice. And there's so many things that help a child in their development socially and emotionally, or social and emotional development, however you want to say it. And then Andie wants to talk about childhood trauma. So thanks.
I'm just telling you how it is. Yeah, I think, you know what? I am a big believer that animals are great. For the most part, I know you always get those weird animals in. Like, I won't go into any weird animal stories with you, but we've had animals that have truly been comforts in times of need. Like when we're crying, like especially dogs are really good. Like cats could care less for the most part, but dogs really know when you're upset. And yeah, our dogs have been amazing for our kids. So, and our cats, they tolerate. Agnes was another legend. She lived to 18 and we finally put her down, even though she was like, okay, but she was like skin and bones and peeing everywhere at that point. Like, I'm done. But she was amazing. She would play with all our Christmas wrap and we all loved her. And yeah, it's a family bonding thing.
Yes, it actually is a family bonding thing. And in case you wanted to know about statistics,
I do.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
90% of people view their pet as a family member. So those other 10%, I don't know who they are, but I don't want to be your friend. Because in my world.
What if they're like farm animals and they can't be a family member because they've got to work?
Well, I mean, we do get milk and eggs from a farm, and they still treat their animals very lovingly, very kindly.
Yeah, but
and
maybe
they'll
they're
have
not
like
as much of a
cats
family.
and dogs that are family-ish. So, no, I think they are part of the family, and so many other people do. So that's that. Now, as we're talking about benefits to having a pet, do you know pets can actually help a child with their communication? And in that point, do you know what Peyton's very first word was?
What?
Dog.
Oh.
I have twins. I did not sleep for like a year. I was so exhausted. I nursed them. I bottle fed them. I did every possible thing I possibly could. I sacrificed so much for my twins. And when Peyton was 9 months old, she saw Cooper walk by and she goes, dog, clear as day. And in my head, I was like, there is no way she's saying dog. And then the next day, Cooper would walk by again. Dog. 9 months. Earliest any of my kids ever spoke. And her first word was dog. And I was so bitter. For like 2 months, I tried to like really go like, she's not really saying dog. And everyone else would be like, do you hear her say dog? I'm like, no.
She's not saying dog. She's saying mama. Mama, mommy. It's something like that.
But it actually is pretty amazing that kids learn specific words, even like fur or fluffy, brush, if they're brushing them. Like we're talking like the little ones, right? When they're working on their skills. So there's a lot of vocabulary that can come with having a dog. I mean, sometimes, sit, and the kid's learning sit. You tell the dog to walk and the kid's walking. when they're younger. But obviously, like we kind of mentioned before, a child can also pretend play with their pet, or they can talk and tell their pet all that happened to them that day, or stories, or even, there's those they did this actually at school, at the elementary schools, where they would have dogs come and pets come, and the kids would read them stories. So it helps with like your reading. There's also like the comfort pets that has, even at like certain hospitals, they have pets just to kind of comfort and help children. But since we're talking about communication, there's so many ways to even help a child with their communication, or to include the pet. Like, say your child struggles to say R and you're working with them through, like, with a speech therapist, and they're giving you the homework. It's like, oh, here, say these words to the dog. And sometimes it makes it more enjoyable for the child, instead of just doing their, speech homework to the parents or making it feel like work. When you include a dog, it can help with those specific skills.
So they become like another family member to work with. So here's my thing about animals, because our animals, like 100% agree, they become like family members. But I have a really hard time deciding what exactly family members, because when you put them down and they die,
so sad.
It's the weirdest grief, because you grieve them like a family member, but you can't say it's like I've tried to put into words what kind of family member, because you can't say someone really close, because obviously if a really close family member passed, it'd be way more devastating. But it is devastating, and there's grief. I'm like to bring the realistic part. Yes, they're like a family member, which is good for your family, but they die. Your kids learn grief.
This is not how I saw this going at all. Like,
Exactly what I was ready for.
You're doing this on purpose. I know it.
This is how I feel.
You came ready. You're like, I know Angie's coming with a positive. I'm going to bring the death.
Well, no, it's just how it is. Because when I think of kids and animals, I think of I do think of the beautiful times, but I think of the times of family grieving we've had to do when we've lost a pet, and trying to put into a name what the loss of that pet is like.
There are no words, because it is so sad. It is so heartbreaking.
Devastating. And
so
unless you
sad.
have a pet, and unless you've I've found that when we've lost pets, if you talk to somebody else who's lost a pet within a year, you guys are have been in battle together. People will sit and talk to you and cry with you within a year. You can really bond with people or have amazing, comforting conversations with anybody else. If people haven't really got attached to pets before, they're like, oh, yeah, that's sad. Oh, I'm sorry. But real ones know. Real ones who've lost a family pet are like, oh my gosh, I'm still grieving. It's amazing.
I'm trying really hard to not sing The Circle of Life right now.
So here's my question for you. Pink pajamas, penguins on the bottom.
Oh, that's right. We don't know the words to this.
Okay, here's my question.
Circle of Life. Thank you, Elton John.
Since we're talking about kids and pets,
and death,
how do you help your kids through the loss of a pet? Because you've had to. Cooper's no longer with us.
God bless
Not
Cooper.
to bring up that.
Thanks.
But
Thanks for that. We love Cooper.
Let's talk about all your dead animals.
I don't want to talk about trauma. I don't. Unlike you, I don't want to talk about trauma. I don't.
Let it go. Let it go. Can't hold it back anymore.
This is what she does to me. I'm not going to lie. I was not going to talk about death at all. And now Andie's asking me these questions. And I'm super uncomfortable.
People need to know how to talk to their kids when a pet dies.
It's very sad.
Yes.
What we have done in the past, because we also had to put Chance down. That was our beagle that we had.
I know. I didn't even want to bring up Chance because I didn't know.
Chance had anxiety.
Chance was on anxiety meds.
Way before it was like acceptable, like years and years before anxiety
Before
was even talked
humans
about.
were allowed to be on anxiety meds, Chance was on anxiety meds. He
true.
walked so that we could run.
Okay, yes, everything
Go,
Andie is saying
Chance.
is true. I was like, what's anxiety? Like, I literally learned about anxiety from a veterinarian.
That's another thing you learned from pets. You can also learn about trauma. You can learn about mental health.
It's true. The vet literally said to us, this is so bad. Okay, first of all, Chance was the cutest beagle you've ever seen.
So cute.
And he had an underbite, and he was really small. And like when he went to go get Chance, well, Ryan had always wanted a beagle, and he kept talking about it. I want a beagle. I want a beagle. And one day I was like, fine, let's just get a beagle. Like I was in college. We didn't even know what we were doing. But I was like, so, you know, like when you get annoyed when someone keeps talking and talking, like over years had gone on. And I was like, we're getting a beagle today. I literally looked in like the newspaper, and it was like beagle breeder. I mean, it was so long ago. And literally there's all these beagles, and they're all jumping around. They're all so cute. And I was like, this is all you have? And they go, well, there's one hiding under the couch. You guys, I crawled under the couch to like get Chance. And he like was so small and so cute with these like super long ears and this underbite. And I was like, we'll take this one. And the breeder's
we'll take the broken one.
are you sure? And as we were walking out, I mean, we didn't pay like beagle prices. Like he didn't have papers or anything. And they go, if you want to return him, you can. That's a sign when the person that you're getting the animal from is like, if you want to return this one, you can.
Usually we don't do givebacks, but in this case.
So precious little Chance. So when we had to put Chance down, thank you, Andie. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. We told Riley that Chance was going to be going to heaven because she was about 3 at the time. And so she drew a picture with Chance or of Chance, and she like was like, can you give this to Chance, and then Chance can give this to Jesus. So like she wanted Chance to bring this picture with him to heaven. And so like when they were gonna like cremate Chance and everything, so as like we put Chance down, like the picture was there, and then they said that they would include the paper so Chance could bring it to Jesus. So we kind of talk about like, you know, crossing over the Rainbow Bridge and Jesus and heaven and Cooper. I mean, that it's still devastating to us. It's been years and we're all still devastating.
We lost a dog a year ago and we're still sad. Like
the kids will still, to this day, will still pray like, please let Cooper have a good day in heaven. Like they still pray for Cooper. So, I mean, we talk more about like, oh, because Cooper by the end couldn't walk because his hips were so bad. And it was like, no, Cooper can run now in heaven. And Cooper can, you know, like he loved to be in the ocean. Cooper can swim. And Cooper, okay, another thing. You want to talk about how amazing pets are besides the fact of having anxiety? I mean, I don't have anxiety, but my dog had anxiety. I learned about anxiety.
I have anxiety.
And I have anxiety when I'm on airplanes. Cooper had food allergies. I didn't know anything about food allergies, and he was allergic to gluten, and he also had environmental allergies. And so super interesting that like I learned about allergies with my dog first. And then as it turns out, like I am now gluten-free. I have been gluten-free for 11 and a half years. But then I have a child who has food allergies. And so to kind of like walk through that journey with a dog first, because he had to be on a really strict diet or because he had allergies. Remember, like you watched him and we're like, if he eats something he can't, you have to give him Benadryl. Like we had to give him Benadryl. We're giving our dog Benadryl. And so then like, I think Cooper also helped us to learn, like just the learning, the researching, and to know like, okay, if this happens, there's a plan. Like we already had a plan for Cooper ate something he wasn't supposed to. And then fast forward a few years, we ended up with we have a child who has food allergies. And so you learn, even as moms, we learn and we grow, and all those things are taught to us by animals. And you guys, we have to get going as much as this is exciting. And
I have way more death stories to talk about.
Andie, we want them to come back on Wednesday.
I have a really great story about putting my dog down and being waxed.
No! They're not going to come back. You guys, I have some great great positive things about how children like learn and grow, and it teaches them responsibility. You have more of an active lifestyle. It helps your health.
Okay, we can talk about that next time.
All these things.
But I do want to say it's a really positive thing to help your child deal with grief, because they're going to have to deal with grief as a human being. We all have to deal with grief. And I think animals are a safe way to like learn to deal with grief. There you go. You're welcome. I made it positive.
No, this is not ending on a high.
This is on a high. Children are learning how to deal with grieving, how to grieve. You know, your children are using it to like think of Jesus in heaven, and they're someday they will die and they will have new bodies and they will be reunited. Like, it's all, I mean, we're not going to get into the theological debate. I believe all dogs go to heaven, and we're going to leave it at that.
There's the cartoons about it.
There's a cartoon about it. It's legit 100%. If the lion and the lamb are there, then Cooper and Luigi and Sylvester, they're all there.
And Chance is there.
Chance is not hiding.
Meds. There's no disease.
He's anxiety free. His teeth have straightened out. He's the cool one now. He's hanging out with all the cool kids.
He's not shaking in a corner.
He's not shaking in the corner anymore. Pussy is not peeing on people's beds.
Yeah, anyway. So you guys like us?
Share us. Share us with your vet.
There you go.
Your animal breeder.
If you're finding us on YouTube, or if you're looking for us on YouTube, make sure you do @MotherFunnyPodcast or @MotherFunny to find us. And shout out to our YouTube friends and our podcast tribe. YouTube tribe, podcast tribe. We love you guys. And we're going to have an upbeat, exciting conversation on the next episode. So make sure you're part of it.
Sure we will. Sure. I'm giving peace signs.
You need to cross your fingers because you're lying.
We'll have a positive, upbeat. We'll get Angie a therapy pet. All right. Bye. All right. That's all we have time for today. We got to wrap it up, unfortunately. But just remember, you might think you're doing just okay, but we think you're doing really great.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. We hope you have a great Mother Funny day. Please like and share our podcast.
But please don't tell our moms.